Hey Pokemon Champions, it's Champion Blaze here, and welcome back to my review series of the writing of the Pokemon anime. We've already reviewed the writing of the original series, which you should check out if you haven't already. But if you're all caught up, then in today's video we'll kick off part 2 with my review of the Advanced Generation. This generation shows Ash's travels through the Hoenn region and Kanto's battle frontier. It's also the second official Pokemon series and the first to change our main cast of characters. Hoenn did so many incredible and revolutionary things for the Pokemon anime, yet when thought of by many fans, it's classified as the Forgotten Generation. Is that really the case? In today's video we'll find out just that. We'll analyze the writing changes made during this series and how they affected the overall anime and its specific series. From the plot changes, to the battles, to the Pokemon, let's take a look at how the Advanced Generation elevated the Pokemon anime to a new level. Now with that out of the way, let's dive right into my review of the Advanced Series anime. Let's get started. After the conclusion of the Johto saga in the original series, it's time for Ash to begin his brand new adventures in the Hoenn region. This was a fresh start for the anime as it gave us a brand new generation of amazing Pokemon and a cast of new characters to get to know. Ash decides to travel to Hoenn after losing to Harrison and his Blaziken, and before leaving he makes the decision to leave all his Pokemon with Professor Oak except Pikachu, and start fresh, truly signifying a brand new adventure. This season's title became Pokemon Advanced, or also known as Pokemon the series Ruby and Sapphire, but let's be honest, we don't call it that. And with a title like that, it paved the way for what Pokemon would become capable of, allowing it to try new ideas and lay the groundwork for the following Pokemon series. The series would introduce us to two new main characters, May and Max. Brock would also come to return shortly after the series would begin because, you know, he's Brock. Not too long into the series, it begins introducing the new factors that will make it stand out from its predecessor. The most notable aspect this series would introduce is Pokemon contests, which to this day are still one of the most beloved aspects about the entire anime. May's goal would become centered on contests and to be the best coordinator she can be. Now while Ash's goal would still be the same with earning the 8 Hoenn gym badges and then entering the Hoenn League at the Evergrande Conference, this series is where they start to give Ash more depth and development on an internal level, as he really doesn't have a rival until much later into the series with Morrison. Prior to meeting up with Morrison, Ash's main rival of the series is actually himself. Yeah, the development for Ash was very interesting during this series, but for now let's continue to focus on May. May's storyline and development will become focused on becoming the best coordinator she can be. She does eventually want to become a top coordinator similar to Dawn in the next series, but for completely different reasons. When May started her journey, she was already an interesting character because she stated that she didn't even like Pokemon to begin with. This already sets her character up for some major development later on in the series. May would also be shown to be very different from the previous female companion Misty, as she has no clear goal at the start of her journey. She's going on this journey just to go and be away from home so she can travel. May would gain the inspiration to become a coordinator after seeing a Pokemon contest in the episode All Things Bright and Beautifly. What's great is that she makes the decision for herself, all on her own, without any outside pressure to choose a certain path for her journey. This is her first big moment of independence, and as the series progresses, she would continue to mature and grow and bond with her Pokemon. Pokemon contests served not only as May's outlet to discover her path as a Pokemon trainer, but allowed the Pokemon anime to show a new side of the Pokemon world and to display new ways that trainers can work with their Pokemon besides conventional battling. Now of course, while May followed the path of a Pokemon coordinator, she, just like Ash, would come to have rivals of her own, Drew and Harley. May would be dealing with not just one, but two rivals throughout the Hoenn series, which would make her journey even more difficult. His writing choice for May's character and her journey was a new step for the Pokemon anime as it helped them showcase that they are able to focus their energy and focus the story on other characters besides Ash. What I mean by this is allowing the anime to shift its focus to a different main character who was embarking on a similar journey to that of Ash. The spotlight finally was put on another character, and for the first time, the female companion had way more importance and was given given her own focus. This style of dual writing, with two main characters having their own paths within the same journey, is an aspect of their writing that would also make Diamond and Pearl so successful later on. That's not to say this new style of writing was without faults, however. Since this was their first attempt at it, it was poorly balanced. They still kept more focus on Ash since he's always been the main character, and it wasn't until later in the series, during the second and third season of the Hoenn series, that they started to make their focus and screen time more balanced. But the payoff was incredible, as both Ash and May helped each other grow tremendously throughout their time spent together, to where by the time their final battle at the Terracotta contest ended, they were evenly matched. May's journey as a Pokemon coordinator laid the groundwork for Dawn's journey in Diamond and Pearl, but it's only because her story was written so well. She became a mentee to Ash and learned from his experiences in Kanto, the Orange Islands, and Johto, but then she would continue to learn from him all throughout Hoenn and the Battle Frontier. She would even go on to mimic Ash's battle style at some points. Her fiery spirit, fierce determination, and ability to never give up is what allowed her skills to keep improving after each contest. She constantly made new combinations, used her Pokemon in unique ways, and always made improvements from previous losses. May herself truly was one of the best aspects of the advanced generation, and to this day she continues to have a lasting impact on so many fans in the community. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Ash's main rival in this series really wasn't Morrison, but rather himself and his ego. Ash obviously gained tremendous amounts of battle experience through Kanto, the Orange Islands, and Johto, but he became much more competent as a trainer and more adept at raising his Pokemon as well. He'd gone from an underdog and amateur trainer to a more advanced trainer. However, he still got a lot to learn even entering the Hoenn region. Ash became cocky and very overconfident in this series. Now, he would eventually come to resolve this issue and become more humble and learn to accept the knowledge and advice of others. However, I do believe that there is a source for Ash's overconfidence in this series: his mentor role to May. The Advanced series was the first time in the series where we see Ash take on the role of a mentor for one of his companions. Since May was just starting her journey and was a newbie, Ash decided he should help May, give her some pointers since he's already done so much traveling prior to visiting Hoenn. Now, while this is a very nice role for Ash to take on, I believe over time it went to his head. He developed a superiority complex, as if he was better than any other trainer he would come across. He would come to believe his skills were immaculate. By the time the third season of this generation rolls around, Ash learns to be more humble and gracious in battle, accepting criticism and advice from others and realizing he's not the best. This is a very important lesson for him to learn, and what's ironic is that this is the same lesson Gary had to learn in the series prior. By the time Morrison and Harrison are introduced to the anime, Ash has learned to be more humble and not be as arrogant in battle. So the League, and later on the Battle Frontier, is able to showcase the growth he's had throughout his Hoenn region gym challenge. So by the time Ash gets to the Battle Frontier, he's able to put all his new skills to the test against his toughest battles yet. Now, another area I want to discuss is the imbalance in the writing development for the characters of the Advanced series. For the most part, Brock is still Brock, but an odd thing for his character in the series is the Pokemon added to his team this time around. Being a Rock-type specialist, you'd expect him to catch more Earth-based Pokemon, right? Well, not in this series. He's got two Water types in Marshtomp and Lombre. Yes, I know Marshtomp is part Ground type. And then he's got Forretress, a Bug Steel type. Like, why? I mean, the Pokemon definitely do fit him, but at first glance it definitely seems a bit odd for his team. It's definitely nice to see Pokemon trainers have variety among the Pokemon they own, and Brock is no exception to this, but he's a Rock-type gym leader after all. He should thematically have at least a few more Rock and Ground-type Pokemon than what he owns. Next, let's shift our focus to Max for a moment, who is arguably one of the most hated traveling companions in the anime simply for the fact that he's pretty forgettable, because he didn't do much. Especially when you compare Max to Bonnie from XY, who is in Max's same age range, he doesn't do much. Therefore, it's really hard to develop his character. All you can really do for Max is gradually teach him the ropes of what it means to become a Pokemon trainer, and what it takes to be one. But this problem stems from the fact that this is also the first time the anime has introduced a brother-sister dynamic into the anime for the main cast. Since Max can't become a Pokemon trainer yet due to his age, he's really just a supporting character, which is kinda messed up considering he's part of the main cast for this series. When most people are asked about Max and what they remember about him, they usually have one of two answers: that he was pretty annoying or just alright, or they bring up the Ralts interaction from that one episode. These are pretty much the main aspects that come to mind when people think of Max, which is quite honestly a shame because Max was also shown to be quite a knowledgeable kid as well. It took some time for this to really show, however, but if you watch enough Hoenn episodes, you'll see that Max actually learns a lot about becoming a Pokemon trainer, and that even when he isn't being taught things by other characters, he still has a lot of his own knowledge as well. Now, the biggest imbalance and mistreatment development-wise in the series actually comes from the aspect that makes this series so unique and special in the first place: Pokemon contests. We all know May chose the path of being a Pokemon coordinator alongside Ash pursuing Pokemon gym battles, but the problem with this is, again, due to the fact that this is the anime's first time writing a storyline involving Pokemon contests. Prior to this, the anime just had to focus on Ash's gym battles, but now the anime is focusing on contests and gym battles. But it's horribly imbalanced, and contests tended to take a back seat until later in the series. A lot of the time, Ash didn't even watch May's contest, and if he did, he'd get there at least halfway through the contest. Throughout a lot of the series, it really seemed like Ash and even the writers didn't care about May's contests. May would always be viewing Ash's gym battles, but Ash wouldn't do the same for May until later on because he'd be too busy training for a gym battle. Thankfully, they would fix this issue in the following series, but while the advanced series may have been rough around the edges, it's only because the writers were trying out a ton of new avenues for the anime. This generation tends to be referred to as the Forgotten Generation, but when you sit down and watch it, the series actually offers a lot of good episodes and storylines. Sure, the focus and development isn't the greatest, but the writing overall tries a lot of new things that end up working really well together and pave the way for future series to follow and improve upon. From Pokemon contests and May's characters, to Ash's internal conflict in the gym battles, to the new story aspects introduced into the anime, the advanced series was overall pretty good, and the writing team really leveled up the Pokemon anime. But the writing would greatly improve in the following season of this series after Ash's loss in the Hoenn League, the Battle Frontier. After suffering his loss to Harrison in the Hoenn League, Ash is confronted by a man named Scott after our heroes have gone their separate ways. Before getting the invitation to take on the Battle Frontier, Ash first battles Agatha in Viridian City as she's now become the new gym leader there. Now, we all know how strong of an Elite Four member she is in the games, so we can expect her to be a strong gym leader, and she does not disappoint. Her Gengar defeats Ash's Pikachu even though Pikachu puts up a pretty good fight. Ash then learns that Agatha is also a Kanto Elite Four member and not just the Viridian City gym leader. So this is quite impressive for Ash. Having covered that little introduction into the Battle Frontier, it was important to cover that battle because it serves as a precursor to all the future battles that will ultimately occur throughout the rest of the season. The fact that this season also starts off with Ash battling an Elite Four member also immediately displays that the battles in this season will be next level and offer Ash challenges he's never faced before. Scott tells Ash that the Battle Frontier will consist of 7 battles against 7 incredibly strong trainers known as the Frontier Brains, who are known to be as strong as Elite Four members. Prior to his Battle Frontier debut, Ash had already battled against Drake and Agatha, so he has an idea of what to expect when he takes on the battle facilities. Now, getting into what makes this season so unique, amazing, and personally one of my favorite seasons in the entire anime, is it's successful for the same reasons the Orange Islands arc was successful and then some. Just like the Orange Islands, the Battle Frontier also doesn't have any blueprints from the games to use as a guide and follow along, so the story becomes much more unpredictable and the writers can have way more creative freedom with it since they don't have to hit certain plot points with the games. Now, I guess the Battle Frontier does exist in Pokemon Emerald, so technically they can follow how the facilities are in the games, but it's also known that in the games, while the Frontier Brains are still extremely challenging, their teams can vary wildly depending on how far you are into the facility. So the writers therefore are able to create more iconic teams for the Frontier Brains in the anime. What's also unique about this season is that we actually return to Kanto for the entire season. In recent times, it seems like when people hear going back to Kanto, it instantly sparks annoyance and frustration among the fanbase. But back during the Battle Frontier, this was the first time we had gone back to Kanto, which was to coincide with the release of the new Generation 1 remix of Fire Red and Leaf Green. But by being back in Kanto for this new challenge, we're able to see brand new areas of Kanto that we didn't see in the original series, the main new areas being the battle facilities. But this time around, Kanto has contests too, something that didn't exist during our first journey through this region. The writers do an excellent job at introducing new Generation 4 Pokemon in this season like Bonsly, Chatot, Weavile, Mime Jr., and even Electivire, and paying homage to Ash as a trainer. When we discussed Ash's growth during his travels in Hoenn, he mainly had to struggle with himself and his ego as a trainer, while May struggled with confidence and learning the ropes of being a trainer and coordinator, on top of usually always being behind her other rivals. This season also greatly develops May as well. Both Ash and May take their experiences from Hoenn and apply them to all their challenges in Kanto. Ash calls upon so many of his old Pokemon throughout this season, such as starting off with the iconic Charizard vs Articuno battle, calling upon Donphan, Snorlax, and even his original Kanto starters during his third battle with Pyramid King Brandon. Just like in Johto, he perfectly uses a blend of old and new Pokemon to help him conquer the Battle Frontier. The spotlight is put on so many of Ash's different Pokemon to let them shine and develop further. Pokemon that weren't too strong in the past get the perfect opportunities to shine in the battle frontier. It's a great display of continuity by giving Ash's Pokemon more room to grow and earn their merits. May does the same thing as well during all her Kanto contests. She has well over 6 Pokemon now and even owns some Pokemon that Ash also owns, such as Bulbasaur and Squirtle. May truly grows as a coordinator when she overcomes Drew during the Kanto Grand Festival. Even though she didn't win it, her development was astounding. She's not that same rookie coordinator like in the beginning of her journey. She's more refined in this season. This season also gave us some of the most creative and wildly entertaining battles in the entire anime. There's the iconic Charizard vs Articuno battle, Ash's double battle against Tucker, Ash's 3 battles against Brandon, Ash vs Annabelle, the list goes on, guys. Every main battle against the Frontier Brains and all the contest battles were all really solid. I don't think any of them could be called a miss. More often than not, every important battle had depth and substance, was story driven, and had some level of great animation. However, this is also due to the short length of this season only having 42 episodes. This allows for more of the episodes to have more substance and allows for significantly less filler since there's substantially less episodes to work with. This is another reason the pacing of Kanto, the Orange Islands, and the Battle Frontier is so good. The writers really need to keep the story going and unfold their major plot points. This season elevated the writing of the anime even further because it's more experimental like the Orange Islands arc, excelled in its creativity and continuity, and steadily paced the story in one of Ash's greatest challenges to date. The season ends with Ash winning the Battle Frontier, with Brandon being his final obstacle, and then he heads home to Pallet Town, where he ends up losing to Gary and his new Electivire. Now this was an excellent writing choice. The writers give Gary Electivire, a new Pokemon Ash hasn't seen before since it's from Sinnoh, and now Ash loses this battle, and I love the reason he loses. One, it's meant to show that even though he just defeated all 7 Frontier Brains, and that this was his greatest challenge at the time, the Pokemon world is a big place, and there's bound to be new Pokemon, new trainers that are potentially stronger than him. Secondly, Ash lets his overconfidence get the better of him. Now I know what you're thinking, I've just spent quite some time in this video about Ash overcoming his cocky nature and being overconfident, but this is different. At the start of Hoenn, Ash developed a cocky nature and attitude towards other trainers in battle due to his performance in the Johto League and taking on a mentor role to May. He thought he was so good when his journey in Hoenn would show him otherwise. After traveling in Hoenn and learning to be humble, he approaches battles differently, which is shown in the Battle Frontier. However, in this battle against Gary, his overconfidence can honestly be justified since Ash did just win the Battle Frontier. He's defeated some of the strongest trainers he's ever come across on his journeys, so he has every right to be very confident in his skills and ability to defeat Gary, who he's already beat. What's even better about this battle is that it demonstrates just how well the writers have gotten with the anime. For what seems like the first time, the writers utilize heavy foreshadowing in the Pokemon anime. Gary using Electivire perfectly signifies his future rivalry with Paul, from how Ash loses the battle to the timing of the battle, even down to Gary's moveset of Thunderbolt, Thunder Punch, Iron Tail, and Protect. It's such beautiful foreshadowing of the greatest rivalry in Pokemon history, as Paul would use an Electivire of his own as well, with a similar moveset of Thunder, Brick Break, Thunder Punch, and Protect. But losing to Gary at this moment shows Ash that there's still so much more growing he has to do as a trainer, so much he still needs to learn. Gary even says to Ash,
"It's great that you won the Battle Frontier, but that doesn't mean you can relax. There are all sorts of tough Pokemon in Sinnoh that you don't even know about yet. Believe me, the world is a big place."
This battling issue is something that would actually follow Ash into Sinnoh as a problem he would need to overcome, becoming too comfortable in battle and being too confident in his Pokemon's abilities. This battle serves as a perfect transition between Hoenn and Sinnoh as the story continues beautifully and seamlessly for Ash as he heads to Sinnoh to start off on a new adventure. And now that Ash has conquered the Battle Frontier, it's time for him to see what new challenges and excitement await him in Sinnoh, and as we all know, it was epic. But this is due to the writing improvements made during the advanced generation that will allow Sinnoh to excel in some of the best writing the Pokemon anime has ever seen. Honestly, Hoenn walked so Sinnoh could run. Let's see how the Diamond and Pearl series takes what the advanced generation established and makes it its own. So now it's time for my final thoughts. What do I think about the Advanced series as a whole? Is it really as forgettable as people claim it is? Well, no, not at all. Hoenn, just like Kanto and Johto, lays the groundwork for the series that come after, especially its direct successor, Diamond and Pearl. Hoenn gave us one of the most iconic characters in the entire anime in May, introduced one of the anime's best features with contests, and elevated battling to amazing new levels. The beginning of the series is super fresh and new and unknown to draw in new fans and to also keep the original fans of the show intrigued as to what's going to happen next for Ash. It's a wonderfully written continuation of his story, and while Ash could have been a bit of a jerk at times, and Max could have been quite annoying at times, they definitely don't deserve all the negative comments they receive in regards to this series, especially Max, since he can usually be a very knowledgeable character even if he's not a Pokemon trainer yet. The Battle Frontier may tend to usually outshine the 3 Hoenn-based seasons that came before, and I totally understand why, but the Advanced series as a whole is super enjoyable and deserves more love, and for the people that stand this series and its characters, they have every right to. This series was called Advanced for a reason, and it lives up to its name. Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you enjoyed part 2 of my review series. In part 3, we'll be taking a look at the Diamond and Pearl series, arguably one of the best Pokemon series in the entire anime. I hope you're looking forward to it, cause I know I am. With that being said, make sure you train hard, and until next time, I'll catch you guys later.